Well, hi everybody, and welcome back to Naturally Adventurous. I'm Ken Behrens, and I'm joined as always by my friend Charley. And
Hi, folks.
Charley is actually in the field right now. You're recording this. What's the name of the national park, Charley?
The one I'm in at the moment is called Doi Puka.
Doi Puka. And
Yep.
it's sort of a high elevation forest site, right? Or
Yep.
moderate. Okay. So yeah, I'm eager to catch up with Charley a bit. I haven't really talked to him about what he's been up to. He's been on a little trip with Felix, I believe, and they've seen some cool stuff. So we'll chat about that. Before we get into that, it's been quiet on my side. I've been doing a lot of I-Naturalist, which I know you recommended that to me a long time ago, and somehow I just never clued into what an
You sort of fobbed it off for a while, because I knew, knowing you as well as I do, I knew you were going to dig it. And I had actually started using it because I'm a bit of a compulsive lister. I've got my bird list and my mammal list sort of going, and I thought it would be nice to get my reptile and butterfly lists in order, but they're all a bit all over the place, sort of checking off in little field guides and whatever. So I thought it'd be nice to have them all centralized, and also it's a wonderful identifying resource. You can put photos of butterflies, and these experts will come along and identify them for you. So that's what I've been using mine to sort of pad my life lists a bit.
Yeah, I think when you sort of told me about it, you took the listing tack, and I'm not much of a lister. I really like seeing new stuff, but it just didn't excite me. It was like, okay, so I can list reptiles. Well, I never really wanted to do that anyways. But what I find so amazing is just this community of experts in all different spheres who will just identify stuff. And it's such
free.
a fantastic... it's such a...
World
seems like
experts
such,
on...
Yeah. It seems like such a... And it's a remarkably, at least in my experience so far, remarkably sort of non-judgmental, like, no one's going to berate you for suggesting something that's completely out of range. You just do your best given what you know. And there's a nice vibe there, which is often lacking in these kind of ID fora that I've, at least for birds, sadly.
I think even in eBird, a lot of people feel a little bit intimidated.
Oh, definitely.
And sometimes, you get that sort of condescending vibe. They do try and put things in a nice, politically correct and sort of non-offensive way. Say, "Are you really sure you saw this bird?" They don't come out and call you a bozo for saying you've seen a bird in a certain place. But with this, you can just put a photo in, or it has this cool AI function that will give you suggestions about what things may be just based on the photos. So it's a wonderful learning device, and you can enter it at any level. You can know absolutely nothing about anything and still get an awful lot about it, or you can be a world expert and use it as to connect with the community.
Yeah, it does a great job of just engaging everybody along that spectrum, from total neophyte to world expert, and then everybody's interacting in this very positive way. And there's also these sort of passive mechanisms for if you put something on there and your idea is completely wrong, and then four experts say, no, this is actually why, it'll just display that as what it actually is. You don't really have to even change it yourself. So unlike, say, eBird, where you sort of have to manually change it yourself, or it's going to be hidden from public view, which, no big deal, and they have to guard their data a bit. But I do think iNat has come up with really good ways of handling potential disagreements about IDs. I've
when I get a suggestion from someone else, I always click on it, and then I check my photo and then check what they suggested it was, and it's it's a kind of mechanism where you can check your own things, and then you can now say, that actually looks more like it, and then you can click on agree. So it's just a great way to learn as well.
Oh, fantastic way to learn. Yeah, and to broaden your horizons into other groups where that, like weevils, weevils are amazing, but I've never had a starting point for identifying Malagasy weevils. Really before I-Naturalist,
evil weevils.
You would have had to go to a museum and look at specimens. Maybe there's a few collections that are online, but they're not that easy to navigate if you're new to, coleopterans, or it just makes it so easy. I'm in love with I-Naturalist. It's awesome.
I don't think that's a real common problem of people really not being able to identify their weevils. I think you're in a sort of like a minority here, but yeah, I definitely get the point.
There's a lot of political problems these days in the world, and I really think one of the bigger ones is the weevil identification.
The one thing that really lacking in my life, is my inability to identify the weevils around me.
Yeah, privileged problems for sure.
But you've been using it quite a bit for plant IDs, yeah?
That's really what got me into it is plants. The AI plant identification is almost useless in Madagascar, except for like cultivated things or incredibly visually distinctive flowers and stuff. But there's this great community of experts that mostly Malagasy botanists. They seem like mostly young guys. One of them I chatted to a bit. He's actually studying in Beijing. He's studying botany in China. And
is that Malagasy?
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Well, there's actually a lot of Malagasy people study in China these days. Probably more than do anywhere else except France, maybe. Yeah.
Probably get some sort of
scholarship or something. Yeah,
scholarships.
I think there's a lot of I think Chinese government sponsorship and fostering ties. Confucius Institute is big here.
Right.
But yeah, I think this guy's been stuck in China since the start of the pandemic, and so I think he's sort of missing his home island, and he's just sitting there on I-Naturalist all day, like virtually botanizing. And so I've really benefited from his expertise. And there's a bunch of people, and it's just been amazing. All these plants, I live right at the edge of town, and there's this sort of savanna below me, and all these plants, I've seen them like every day for years, never known what they were, and never really had a way of starting to identify them. And all of a sudden, I know what all of them are, and it's just immensely satisfying to me. Anyways, that was longer than intended, but I've been very excited by I-Naturalist. But I'm excited to hear.
But anybody listening to us, if you haven't tried to use this app yet, I really suggest that you do. It's so much fun. Especially, it's a great time to do it as well during lockdown. If you've got a little yard with a bunch of creepy crawlies in there, or butterflies or anything, just get out there and start taking some pictures and putting them on, and just learning a little bit more about your surroundings. It's absolutely incredibly rewarding.
It's personally rewarding, and then you're also contributing something to the greater knowledge, which can actually be significant for invertebrates. I've contributed the first photo of a whole bunch of different plants. Now, I didn't identify them myself, but once the experts chimed in, it actually felt meaningful. The first, one of the first field photographs of certain endemic plants. So
fantastic.
So anyways, I'm keen to hear what you've been up to. I know, so you were at one national park and now you're at another one, and it's just you and Felix, right?
That's right, yeah. So been sort of doing the house husband, the house spouse thing for the last few months, and for the first time in my life I've really been stuck in one place, taking my son to school and picking him up and doing all the sort of usual day-to-day things. So now he's got a 2-week school vacation. It's the sort of end of the first semester, and for the last few weeks I've been planning a trip to get away, and having birded so much in Thailand, I am lacking very few birds. There's very, very few lifer possibilities for me, but just a few hours away there were a few birds that I really, really wanted to see. So I thought, this is my chance. My wife is busy. She's got some stuff going on at home, so she couldn't come away, unfortunately. But me and Felix, we grabbed our new car. Well, new to me, this old banger. It cost like $1,000. And
I didn't realize you had a car. I was going to ask you where
I
thought you might be on your little motorbike.
No, because it was like 6-7 hour drive to get out this way, so we wouldn't want to do that.
No,
especially
that
carrying
all
our camping gear and stuff. So yeah, a few weeks ago we got a
younger Charley would have done it without hesitation to save a bit of money.
He would have, yeah. But anyway, so we got this old 26-year-old Toyota, and we loaded it up with our camping gear, and then we headed to these two national parks, which I've been wanting to go to for a long time. So I live in Chiang Mai, up in the northwest of Thailand, and probably directly east. I would say, it was about a 300-kilometer drive to get to the first place, but as a crow flies, maybe 100 miles away or whatever, but a lot of winding roads.
In Madagascar, that would be about a 26-hour drive.
I was thinking about you on my relatively long drives. It put it into perspective, and in general,
those smooth
the roads
Thai
here
roads
are very good. Although I did have a few hiccups, so we left. We left Chiang Mai, heading towards the Suan National Park, and at first the roads were great, like big wide highways, and they got wide, sort of narrower and narrower, and in the end it was just a sort of 2-lane, but still a good paved road. As you sort of got out into the more rural areas, all the regular cars, they kind of changed to these Toyota pickups, and almost everybody had these Toyotas because people are working in agriculture, whatever, and it's just a sort of vehicle of choice, this sort of Toyota Hilux little pickup. And they start to get a little bit, the drivers tend to get a little bit aggressive when you leave the city. They, people speeding and starting overtaking on blind corners and stuff.
It's a funny thing about Thailand, eh? I've noticed that as well. The city drivers are actually pretty polite. It's kind of the reverse of a lot of the world.
And it's like they seem to be in such a rush, even though they're living in the countryside, obviously having a sort of a relatively slow pace of life. But anyways, there's something about them. Living in the countryside in Thailand turns you into a maniac when you're driving. Anyway, and it was all fine. I'm used to driving around bad drivers and giving them, not giving people a benefit of the doubt and just sort of giving them a little bit of extra space. But one of these trucks overtook me. And I think there was other cars coming the other way, but it was a wide road, so I pulled over, and he shot past me. And then another one came by as well, and he totally hit the side of my car. This is something I've never experienced before. I've had scrapes and bumps, but
just
not going that fast.
Basically, sideswiped you.
Sideswiped me, going really quickly.
That's pretty scary.
And then he just kept on. And I thought, in any country, that's breaking the law.
No, that's illegal,
You touch somebody, you've got to pull over and exchange details and apologize. Anyway, this guy didn't do it. And
just completely smash your mirror then, or did he miss your mirror somehow?
I wasn't sure what it was at the time, but I think in the end he just hit the mirror with his mirror or whatever. It felt like he'd actually touched the side of the car because I was so shocked. But in the end, I figured he must have just touched my mirror because it was sort of out of sync. And the car is so sort of battered and scratched anyway that you couldn't, you wouldn't really notice the scratch anyway, But anyway, but I was furious. I was like, this guy's got to stop, And anyway, so I put my foot down.
Oh boy!
And I thought, no, I'm pulling this guy over. You can't do that, And I was really, really angry, and he wasn't, And my car doesn't really do. I think he must have got held up by some other traffic in front because he was going probably faster than my car would go. Because normally I'm plodding along at 60 miles an hour anyway. It doesn't go much faster than that. And I caught up with his car and I overtook him. And I start flashing and waving him down. And then he's trying to overtake me. And I'm like, no.
You're
and
getting more and more angry.
I'm like cutting him off. He's trying to overtake me and I'm pulling him off. And I'm like sort of motioning out the window, pull over. And he keeps trying to overtake me. And I was absolutely furious. And there was other cars coming the other way. And it was everybody's beeping and flashing. And I was just thinking, no, this is wrong. He's got to stop. And in the end, I started pulling over and he pulls over. When I say he, I got out of the car and it was a woman. And I lost it. My son was sort of looking out the window and I was just shouting and getting really cross. I was like, you cannot do that. You've got to stop. And
now, was this in Thai? Is your Thai up to the task?
No, I was screaming at them in English. But I think they got the message. And they were like smiling and all polite and kotod. And I was like, no, it's not sorry. It's not sorry. You kind of broke the law. And I did know police in Thai, and I was just shouting police at them. And then I sort of I made a little square sign like an ID. I was like, you show me ID. And they were like, oh, they're making out they didn't know what I was talking about. And And then I pulled my driving license out of my wallet and I said, "Look, you show me this, you show me that." And she's like, "Oh, my me, you know, she doesn't have." And I was like, "You don't have a license." I was like, "This is not gonna end well for you." And then I was pointing at the other guy and he was like, no. And I wasn't gonna let them go. And basically he pulls out a little ID card and I photographed that as well. I photographed both of them. I photographed the plate and then I just pointed on the road ahead. I said police. And I was absolutely furious. Anyway, so we were going along and there was no police station. We went like 20 miles and there was nothing, in the middle of nowhere, mountain roads. Anyway, these guys, I don't know if they pulled over or went along a different road, but they have these sort of little police checkpoints, and I got to a police checkpoint, and then I tried. The guy didn't speak. You know, before I got there, I was thinking, is this a good idea? Is it a good idea for me to tell the police?
Right.
Because one thing that people tell you is that if you're a foreigner, you're in the wrong. If there's a disagreement, and you're a foreigner and they're Thai, you will almost always be in the wrong, and they'll choose a Thai side. That's what I've always heard about the cops.
Maybe it's just a matter of the foreigners just need to back down and just this.
Yeah, or you know, you've got to look after your own or whatever. This is what I've always heard, and I started thinking if they're pulled over, they could just say that I sideswiped them, you know, or they were. I was breaking the law, and I was thinking, is there some way that I could get myself into deep water here? But I thought, no, what they did was wrong. You can't just have an accident and keep on driving. So I thought, no, I've got to do. And I spoke to the guy, and I had my Google Translate, and I was like, a car crashed into me and didn't stop. And then I put that in Google Translate, and it came out. And the cop was like looking at it. He looked very concerned, you know, and really, he seemed like a really nice guy. Some little guy sat at this police checkpoint, you know,
in the middle of nowhere,
out of his brains, middle of nowhere, yeah, having this crazy foreigner with a phone, a translation app on a phone,
waving his phone and showing him photos.
Yeah, I was like, look, read that, and he was like, yeah, they crashed into me and didn't stop, and he was like, oh, like he was it seemed like I was getting through, and then I pulled out the pictures of the drivers, and he's photographing the pictures from my phone on his phone. And then the driver's license, and he took a picture of that, and then the ID, and he took a picture of that. And I was thinking to myself, is he not going to ask, if they left the scene, how do I have their photos? And then and I didn't want to sort of make out that I was like arresting them myself or pulling them over or doing anything dangerous. But I said, oh no, I overtake and they stop or something like that. And anyway, and then he looked very concerned, and he took the details, and then I sort of did this, you know, the little prayer position with your hand, and I was like, please, you know, please. And he's like, yes. And it sounded like he was going to look into it. And he didn't ask for my details, and I sort of bowed to him a little bit. And then I just jumped in my car and sped off. And I saw that as a sort of best scenario. You know, there was a chance that they were going to get in trouble, and that he didn't have my details. So
you weren't going to get embroiled in some
legal
struggle or something.
Anyway, yeah, and I was like, I asked my son, is everything okay? And he said, oh, Dad, you were really furious. I was like, yeah. I was like, yep.
I saw that video that you posted on Facebook, I think, and I cracked me up when Felix was like, my dad got really mad.
My dad. Anyway, so this was the start of our little one week vacation. Sorry to sort of go on a little bit.
Nice relaxing start.
So that's... Anyway, but I sort of calmed down, and I was kind of chuckling to myself, and I thought, okay, no harm. And actually, one thing that happened, although they didn't damage my car, I was so angry when I was getting out of the car, I pulled the handle to open the door inside my car, and I ripped off the handle. So I actually damaged the car myself. I was so cross. So now I've got to wind down the window to open the car door from the outside. So. Anyway, so this is the beginning of my trip. Anyway, so and then we're on sort of Google Maps, and you know, 1 hour down, 2 hours down, 3 hours down, still on decent roads, and then it turned off the main road, and it was still kind of paved, and I just trusted it. I just followed it, and then the road got rougher and rougher, and then it sort of turned to a gravel road, and I was like, oh no, and some bits were tarred and some bits were mud. And it started getting steeper and steeper. And then we were, and my car, this Toyota Corolla, is not a very powerful car at
Right.
all. You know, when I go up a hill, I normally turn the air conditioning off just to give it a little bit more power, you know. And it got steeper and steeper and muddy and then gravelly. And then it was barely making it in first gear up this long slope. No cars around, you know. It was petering out to nothing. And I was like, oh, this does not look good. And then there was this huge pothole in the middle of the road, and I had to slam my brakes on because it would have probably damaged the car. And then after that, because I was on a steep hill, and I couldn't get the car going again. It would turn on, but the wheels would spin. And it was just the wheels are spinning, and you hear that sort of burning smell.
Ooh, yep.
And it was. You remember, what it reminded me was a trip I did with you in northern Namibia, where we rented a really cheap little Golf,
Tiniest little cheapest car we could get. Yep.
Yeah, and then we went on a totally the wrong road for the wrong vehicle, and we barely made it up this like steep slope. And one of us had to get out and push, and it was just
Yep,
it
we
felt
had to
like that.
hit it with as much speed as we could, and then you're like
I was pushing, and there was
yeah,
there was dust, sort of the wheels are spinning, and rocks flying everywhere, and only just made it. Yeah, it just reminded me of that, and it was so narrow by that point that I would have had to roll down like a kilometer on this steep mountain gravelly slope, and it just wouldn't have been good at all. But anyway, I just about made it. We just kind of started moving, and we got to this top of this steep hill, and then we got to the very narrowest part of the road, and then from there it started getting a little bit. It was basically a little mountain pass that nobody used anymore, and then it got wider and wider and better, and then we finally spit out. It was like a shortcut, a Google special. And it was just horrendous, after the whole trauma of this whole incident with this other driver, and then this dreadful road, and the stress of almost not getting up it, and it was just horrendous. I thought I was expecting beautifully paved roads all the way, and then it was just horrendous. Anyway, it spat back out on a main road. We should have never gone along this road, and then finally, a couple of hours later, we arrived in this national park, which was called Suan, and it was sort of 900 meters, I think. What's about 3,000 feet, sort of mid-elevation forest, and it had a lot of bamboo, and it was sort of on the border with Laos, and it was a very unusual habitat that there isn't much of in Thailand, and there's a few birds this park is the only place where you get them in Thailand. And it was these things that I was looking for. So actually, of about the 10 or 15 birds that I'm missing in Thailand, 4 of them were in this park.
Wow.
So I was super excited. And we spent 3 nights there, and it was just an incredible park. It was just so... What hit me the most was that it was just so well managed. Often you get there and trails are overgrown, and the signs are
all over the world,
deteriorating, and all over the world, like the majority.
Yep.
There's this sense of decay and lack of interest.
Once you're outside of the main like moneymaker parks in most less developed countries, it's just complete neglect, and just no one cares.
But this park, even though there was almost nobody there, had these beautifully cared for hand-painted signs, and even new signs with photos and maps and brilliantly maintained trails and friendly staff and sparkling clean bathrooms, a hot shower.
Wow.
It's one of the
luxury.
Few. It was just it was mind blowing. There was like open grassy areas where Felix could kick his football around. There was like a little boule, that game that Frenchmen play with those big metal balls. It was like a little boule.
Wow.
And there was a nice little cafe with some ladies that would cook you sort of fried rice, and it
Paradise.
was amazing. We had this whole place to ourselves, and it was just such a shock, having been to so many parks around the world that are just in total neglect, and there's just total lack of interest in the staff. How well managed, and just how it just showed how things should be, and it was brilliant.
So did you camp there, or?
Yeah. We camped. We took a tent and we camped. and we had our hot showers, and they had this beautiful trail that we walked along through the forest, the bamboo forest, and it was fantastic. But the birding was quite tough. Of the 4 birds that I needed, one of them I saw pretty soon, which was called the rufous-throated fulveder. This little, which I know you've seen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little bird. Kind of unusual.
Cool little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of hops around on the ground or really low down and skulks, but it's quite, it chatters away, and it's got these little white stripes on the head and this little rufous throat, and it's quite sort of charismatic. Quite a cool little thing.
To me, it's a classic Asian bird. It's not necessarily over the top colorful, but it's just got this real dapperness to it. This very attractive.
Yeah. And a lot of personality, and
yep.
And yeah, both Felix and I saw it pretty well, and that was great. So there's a expat British guy that lives in Thailand, and he has a website where he puts a lot of information on about different national parks. And he writes down how many visits he's seen every species out of the total number of visits he's had. It gives you a really nice idea about how likely you are to see birds. It's kind of like eBird, but just one guy's
personal he's a very good birder, and
exactly.
So it's a pretty meaningful yardstick. Yeah.
Yeah. So this bird that I saw, I think 6 out of 7 times he's seen it. And there was another 2 birds that only 1 time out of 7 he'd seen. And I was thinking, maybe these 2 I don't have a very good chance for. Because he'd spent weeks in that single park, So there was only 1 other really good chance. And I think he'd seen that 3 times out of 7. And that was something called the short-tailed parrotbill, which I know you haven't seen.
Oof, I really want to see it. It looks like such a cool bird. Parrotbills in general are awesome.
They're one of my favorite groups of Asian birds, and they had this little thick bill. A lot of them eat like bamboo seeds and stuff like that, but they've got these really weird looking bills, and there's a whole bunch of them. I've seen most of them in the world now, so that was an extra incentive, was to try and finish off this group. But anyway, after 2 days of searching, we just couldn't find this bird.
And was it just the one? You said there was like a 3-kilometer loop. Was it just the one trail?
Yeah.
So you're just walking the same trail over and over?
Well, there were a few other ones, but that one trail, it sort of went through the bamboo forest and then sort of came back along the road. It was like a 3-kilometer loop with really nice bamboo habitat all the way along. And that was apparently the place to see it. So I was just concentrating on that.
Did you see any other bamboo specialist birds, like white-hooded babbler or...
Yeah, the white-hooded babbler, that was split a while back. So the one in the area is called a collared babbler now. It's got this snow white head and this brown body, and they hang around in the bamboo forest. Yeah, there was a few things like that. It was cool. But there were these little signboards as you went around this trail. And there was a few of them, and quite a lot of them, you would get to the signboard, and right there, you would see that particular bird at that particular spot.
Wow.
It was bizarre, because a lot of parks around the world have this. They'll just put random bird pictures around, saying, "Oh, well, maybe you can see this," kind of thing. But these had actually, I think, been placed by somebody who really knew the forest and the birds that were in it very well. And I would sort of walk along, and I saw this beautiful silver pheasant. This just snow white back and long tail, and I saw it twice on my loops that I went round, and every time I saw it, there was this little signboard saying silver pheasant. And it was just so funny, because everywhere around the world you just see these random things and you're thinking, oh, maybe that's here, and it never is. They've always been just put there at random, but it was so funny to see these birds at exactly where these signboards were.
Uncanny.
But yeah, but I think there was one of the local rangers really knew the birds well, and I think he must have advised on where to put them.
Oh, that's
but
amazing.
This silver pheasant was pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, so I didn't see my parrotbill, but I'm actually really excited to go back there. But the highlight of my stay there was not actually a bird at all, but it was a mammal. And I'd sort of read in the information online about the place. It said sometimes hog badger is seen. And a hog badger is a type of badger, similar to like a North American badger or a European badger. Anyway, so I was walking along this road in the late afternoon, and I heard this rustling by the roadside. And whenever you get this, the thing to do is just stand still.
Yep.
Because often mammal, you start moving around, the animal will hear you, and then it will just run off into the forest. So I just stood stock still, didn't move. And this thing just got closer and closer, and I was just sort of stepped very softly just to get a better view. And then I saw this big fat animal, and I knew immediately it was this hog badger. And it just looked so overweight. It looked almost a beast, this thing. And it had this kind of scruffy grey coat and this kind of black and white striped face and these little white tufty ears. And I just stood there and watched it, and it just came it had its snout stuck in, and it was just sort of sniffing around in the undergrowth. And it got closer and closer, and I just watched this thing for a while, and I got a few photos. And at that point, I was probably a couple of 100 meters away from the campsite, and my son, who'd done some of the walks with me, he was a bit tired, and he's got this little tablet where he's got some games, and he said, "Dad, now I'm going to sit this one out." So he was just sort of sat in the cafe, just playing on his game, and I sprinted back, and I was like, "Felix, hog badger, hog badger, hog badger!" And he grabbed his bins, and we ran back to the spot. And just 5 minutes later, it was still in the same spot,
Nice.
still sniffing through the undergrowth, and it came close, and he got a really good view. And he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I said, "Felix, do you realize how rare this is?" And he says, "No." And I said, "I don't." And I started listing. This is how my son gauges how rare something is by who hasn't seen it. and he knows quite a few of the birds which all the tropical birding guides haven't seen, or their nemesises. And I'll say, you know what? I don't think Ken's seen this animal. And he's like, "Oh, really?" And he said, What about Keith? If Keith and I was like, "No, I don't think Keith has seen it either." And he's like, "Oh, wow. So I've seen something that Keith hasn't seen." And I was like, "Yep." And I think he's obviously got this thing from me about loving to grip people off.
Oh yeah.
And see things that other people. And he said, "What about Sam? Has Sam seen it?" And I was like, "Let me think. He might not have seen it." Yeah. Anyway, so we saw this thing. We got photos. We got great views. And then first thing we do when we got back to the restaurant, I sent a message, and I was like, I think I sent one to you, and I sent one to Keith. I was like, "Keith, have you seen hog badger?" And he said, "No, it's a bit of a nemesis of mine." Just a few minutes later, and then the next thing I said, "Okay, Felix, you've got to send a voice message to Keith, and say and sort of rub it in a little bit." And so I started the WhatsApp message, and he said, "Oh, hi Keith, this is Felix. Have you seen a hog badger? I just saw one. It's really nice. I saw it really well." Like that.
Oh my goodness.
But Keith, who's been birding and sort of
30 years all over Asia,
mammal chasing,
lives in Taiwan,
to be sort of gripped off by an 8-year-old again. So that was a bit of fun. But he's had this happen a few times now, so he's sort of used to it. So he takes it quite well. But I remember a while ago we sent him a message, sort of gripping him off, and he sent Felix a message back saying, "Felix, this is a dangerous game to play with me." He said, there's always someone, there's always something that you haven't seen, like that. And I said to him later,
sound
Keith,
life advice.
He doesn't really. The only person he's worried about that grips him off is his mum. He gets quite jealous when his mum sees something when he doesn't. He says, "Okay, Charley, you tell him next time he does that, I'm going to take his mum to Colombia birding." So this is a big joke amongst us now, saying like, "Oh no, is Keith going to take Mum to Colombia birding if I grip him off with another message?" Anyway, nice. So that was pretty funny. So yeah, we had this wonderful, and I managed to get a photo, so I'll put that on the gallery this time. But
I can't wait to see it.
And it's often the way, you go looking for one thing and don't see it, and then you end up seeing something that you didn't expect. And And it's a magical thing about being in nature, and the it's just totally unexpected what you're going to see next, and that for me is one of the most exciting things about what we do.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to become too obsessed with one single target. That's, to me, that's always
exactly.
You want to stay in this mental space where you just accept and enjoy whatever you see, which can be a lot harder to do than to say. Like in the case of that parrotbill, I was thinking about you walking around that trail over and over and over again, and it's really hard to keep yourself in the space where you're just enjoying being in the forest. At some point, you get pretty single-mindedly obsessed with that one bird, and then that's usually the point at which you should think about doing something else, at least in my view.
It brings you down. It really does bring you down. And I used to get quite upset about missing stuff, but as a guide, I think you're always probably going to have other chances to go and see things again. You're going to have other opportunities. Whereas a lot of people that go on our tours, often it's going to be their only chance to go to that place. They go to West Papua or Madagascar. That's probably going to be the only trip in their life. So if they miss something, that's going to be it.
Yep.
So I always feel that I've got the benefit of having other opportunities at a later date. So I tend to take misses better now than I used to.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, I know we do have a friend and colleague who doesn't take misses very well. Sam, I won't say his name, but I always feel that it's a better state to be in for your own happiness, and to enjoy what we're doing is to sort of take the misses with a pinch of salt, and with some good grace.
I ask myself, when I see this creature, am I going to feel actual happiness, or am I just going to feel relief? And when you get into that relief zone, it's usually not a healthy space to be. At that point, you're sort of not enjoying the thing for what it really is. You're just enjoying it for the fact that it represents success or something, and then you ask yourself, like, why am I looking for success in the realm of nature or whatever? It's like kind of a funny place to be when you're walking around in the forest. Of course, everybody likes some sense of accomplishment and achievement, but it shouldn't be the main thing.
And looking at this thing, I was just, it made me happy. I felt lucky to be seeing this thing. I felt wonderful to be able to show it to my son. And I would really like to come back here. And so I've missed this bird. Apparently it's easier in the dry season. We're sort of just at the beginning of the dry season now. There's a few, I think this same guy who placed all these little signboards so nicely, I think he also sets up these little photographic blinds at little watering spots. So I am super excited to go back to this place and maybe visit some of these blinds to get some have another chance for the parrotbill and some nice bird photography. Yeah, so I'm actually very excited to come back. I told my wife about this badger. She was like, "Oh my god, I want to see it." And I thought, "Yep, great. Nice. Gives me another chance to come back." So yeah, that was the first place that I visited, Pusawan Sai. Really enjoyed it. The second place, Doi Puka, is also sort of close to the border with Laos. It's on this little mountain range, and it's sort of in the north of Thailand, but just sort of directly east from where we are, and it's in a province called Nan, Nan, and it's very much off the beaten track. It's not a place that a lot of foreign birders come to.
Right.
But it's really nice. And the strange thing is, having had this amazing national park all to ourselves for 2 days, we arrived here and it's absolutely packed with people midweek. And it's like, why do all these people come here but not the other place? It's always difficult to know with Thais, what kind of things they're like. But this is a totally different park in that it's just crowded with people.
Any explanation? Is it just on the radar of local people, and they just for some reason it's established as a place to go?
It's got a really nice view from the campsite, and Thais really like these views. I think there's a big sign saying you're in Doi Puka National Park, and you can sort of stand in front of the sign, and then you just get this beautiful panoramic view from the top.
Selfie paradise.
A selfie paradise. Yeah, they do. I think the Thais really do like to be out in nature. It has a different emphasis, that you don't get them walking trails and looking at things, but they do like to be out there. They like to camp. They like to be in a group and all cook together and whatever. Yeah. So and there is one more thing that makes it quite popular here. It's called Doi Puka. Doi means hill or mountain, and Puka is the name of a tree, and this tree I think is only found inside this park.
Huh.
And I think in January, I think we're still a little bit early, it flowers and it has these beautiful hanging pink inflorescences. They call it chompu, which is pink, chompu puka, and people come from all over to see this pink flowering tree. So I think that sort of makes it well known.
Okay.
But anyway, a lot of places you would be in a packed campsite and it would be quite unpleasant. But, the Thais, they're so friendly and they're just so inobtrusive. They're not staring or shouting things at you. They smile, they're very polite, they're very welcoming. And it's actually very pleasant to be camping amongst them, even, where there's quite a lot of tents and stuff. So, yeah, I really enjoy camping with the Thais.
I notice a very different philosophy about nature in, I guess, Southeast Asia, and I also saw this in Taiwan. It's this, like, you just go out in nature and you have an extended picnic, and you bring your own little table and chairs, and you make tea, and you just kind of spend the whole day just sitting somewhere. Sometimes it's like the edge of a parking lot, which is next to the forest. It's but there's something that I like about it, and it's very different than the kind of Western approach, which is like, okay, we're going to do this 17-kilometer loop, and then we're going to we're going to achieve this view, and then this waterfall, and then we're going to have our packed lunch of like protein bars here, and and I kind of enjoy that approach sometimes, but it's interesting to observe this Asian approach, and it kind of fits with the way a lot of Asians seem to approach photography, which is like, well, let's set up our little table with our ice box next to this fruiting tree and sit here all day. And if I get one good photo, then great. It's almost like fishing.
And you've got your little travel stove and your little instant noodles, and you're sort of self-sufficient. You go to a spot and you enjoy it, and you don't need to sort of hike around or hike trails or look for specific things. You just sort of enjoy being outside and in one spot.
I had a brilliant human sighting in Daoshushan in Taiwan.
Oh, right.
It was one of these little pullovers next to the road, and it was a Taiwanese older couple, just doing the classic Taiwanese thing of like setting up the table and the tea and the little burner, and they were right next to a huge sign of rules, and like the top 3 or 4 rules were like, no picnicking. It said no feeding the birds, no cooking. So they'd scattered grain all over, like trying to track birds. They're like actively cooking. They've got this huge. They were like actively violating like almost all the rules on the huge sign that they were right next to. It's pretty cool.
It's quite funny because in general, Asians are pretty law-abiding or rule-abiding, but sometimes they'll just happily sit in front of a sign telling them not to do stuff, and they'll be doing it. And it's quite a weird thing.
It's a strange thing. Like I mean, you'd have to fear for your life if you did something like that in Australia. I mean, you'd probably end up with like a $10,000 fine or something.
Yeah. But yeah. So they're quite interesting places for people watching. But anyway, so I went out to do a little bit of birding this morning, and I picked up another lifer, which was one of those difficult ones from the last place, which was called the Indo-Chinese Yuhina. And just because gaining a little bit of extra elevation meant that we were sort of more in the range of that, and then all of a sudden it's quite common here, and I found them pretty easily. So yeah, it's funny, you go to one place and it's rare, and you go to another place and it's super common. So I've had 2 lifers, so it's I've really enjoyed it. So we've got another couple of nights here, and then we'll head back to Chiang Mai.
That sounds like fun. Wish I could join you guys.
And it's so nice because we've been sort of stuck at home and just doing the sort of school thing. So it's just nice to be outside and see somewhere new. So we're really enjoying it. I know you've had a couple of interesting interviews with like rangers and stuff on your past couple of trips. So yeah, you gave me the idea that I'm going to maybe try and interview my son and get his little. He's sort of mouthing no.
Whatever Dad says, the opposite.
Yeah.
We're
gonna go out into the.
Felix can try to grip off the world somehow. He can tell us about the hog badger.
But I'll see if I can get him to sort of show us what he likes about coming camping or birding, whatever. So we'll try and have a little interview. Is that okay, Felix? Yeah. No.
No. Look forward to it.
Never.
Sounds like fun.
Never.
But
for those that don't have me on social media, if you look for me at Charley Hesse on Facebook, you'll find some little videos. So Felix and I often do these little in the field, little 1-minute videos, which are quite fun. So feel free to friend me and check out. No, he's anyway. We'll see what we can do. He's a little bit shy. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. So it's been rather nice.
That sounds like a fun trip. Do you have any more sort of target birds at the place where you are now, or are you just enjoying?
No, it was only one here, so I'm just gonna work on getting Felix a few more lifers. A while back he passed 500 species, which is not bad for an 8-year-old. And
good work, Felix.
He's on about 530, 540, so we're sort of slowly moving towards 600 species. But, you're sort of trying to pick up all these little warblers and skulkers and stuff, which are quite tricky. So hopefully we'll just pick up a few more lifers for him. And who knows what we'll see. Maybe we'll see a mammal. Just at breakfast this morning, we saw this thing fly down, and then we managed to spot it. And it was a flying lizard. Just landed on the tree next to us.
Those things are amazing.
Which is
great genus too, Draco,
yeah. And they've got these little throat spikes that they sort of stick out, these little dewlaps. And often you've got to see the color of that to sort of ID them. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And we'll see what else. Maybe some butterflies or flowers.
So is Felix? Maybe I shouldn't ask this while he's right there, but is he able to focus well? Like if you're trying to get him on an understory skulker of some kind, will he stay quiet and sort of follow your instructions?
Oh yeah, no, he's very good. We've been checking out wildlife his whole life, so he knows when to be quiet. We would even at 2 years old, we were sat in blinds, sort of waiting for mammals in Africa, or and then sort of creeping up on skulking birds and stuff. Now he's actually very good at that, and he's actually very good at spotting.
I bet
things in the undergrowth. He's got very good eyes. So yeah, it's just a matter of improving his skill with getting things in his bins, which he's getting much better at.
Yep, it takes a lot of practice. It's a lot of people don't realize that, but it's actually something like if people are coming on a birding tour and they haven't done many, just practice aiming your binoculars at things at home before you go on the tour, because it will be a surprisingly useful skill when you're spending weeks in the field, especially in a place where the birding is tough, like Southeast Asia.
A good friend of ours, who was a guide, old Scott Watson, who I think we need to get on the show. He's one of our listeners too. He in training for binoculars when he was a kid, I think he used to throw a coin up in the air and try and focus on it before it fell to the floor.
I've never heard that. That's hardcore. Wow.
That was his sort of like hardcore binocular skills. Yeah. And the other thing he would do, you always want to get the light behind you so you get things in good light to ID them. He would sort of walk along a trail with a light in his eyes, trying to ID stuff just from sort of shape and
brilliant,
and just from jizz. Yeah. So once you've got your sort of binocular use down pat, then there's more sort of high level strategies that you can use.
So when I was about 13, I was briefly convinced I wanted to be a pro guide. And I remember just I had my scope set up like the window of my bedroom, and I would close my eyes and then I would open my eyes and I'd pick something to aim the scope at, and then I'd go to the scope and I'd just try to aim it and get it on the thing as quickly as I possibly could. And I just practiced this for hours. And then
did you have like a sort of imaginary friend that used to show things in the scope?
I know I had a
quick, come and look.
whole imaginary tour group. They all had names and. No, this was a very brief period in which I thought I wanted to be a pro guide, and then I convinced myself.
I'm glad you snapped out of that.
Yeah, I convinced myself that was not the way to go, and there was years in which I really didn't think I wanted to guide, and then I ended up guiding. So, life lesson: you really have no idea what you're going to end up doing or enjoying. So
that's funny, eh? About these sort of showing people things in the scope. I birded once with this woman. She was a little bit eccentric, and she birded with two little like stuffed toys, and they were little frogs, and she would have one frog in each pocket, and then when she got something in the scope, she would show these little frogs. She would sort of hold them up to the scope like that and say, "Can you see it? Yeah, yeah." And then she'd pull the other frog out of her other pocket, and she'd say, "Yeah, have you got it? Have you got it?" And she kept lists for the two frogs about the birds that they'd seen.
Wow.
And yeah, amazing.
I think
I
a little bit eccentric.
And I said,
might be an understatement.
Understand. and I asked her when I saw, and I was trying to be respectful, and I didn't want to make fun of her. I said, do the two frogs, do they have the same list? And she was like, oh no, this one's missed a few ones that this one's seen, and and vice versa. So these two frogs had sort of very, very different lists. So,
that's something, Charlie. I'm going to be processing that story for a while.
Dude. Oh, she was one, eh?
To each their own, I guess. It's
Yep.
like you get 3 times as much out of the birding tour as your average participant, I suppose.
You do, yeah, you do. Anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it, maybe.
Yep. So I guess next week, unless you or I does something that we want to talk about, we'll go back to top 10 mammals. I'm not sure whose we're going to do, but we'll be back.
I think we'll do yours just to even things out a little bit, because
that sounds good.
You can maybe catch up a little bit. But looking forward to some more mammals next week.
Yes, indeed. And then I guess you'll do a little interview with Felix, and that'll be the end of this episode. So
I'll try. Yeah, we'll play out with a
see if he
little
cooperates.
Forest interview. We'll try and get a little bit of ambient noise, some bird calls in the background, and you can get inside the head of an 8-year-old bird watcher, see what their take on it is.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Catch you next week.
Yep. See you next time. Hi there. This is Charlie here. I'm here with my son Felix. And it's Felix's school holiday at the moment. He's got 2 weeks off school, so we've come to check out a few national parks in Thailand. So how's it going, Felix?
Good.
Have you enjoyed it?
A lot.
What have been some of your highlights?
Seeing the hog badger.
I think we talked about that in the podcast a little bit. But the hog badger that we saw, that was pretty cool, eh?
Very.
Yeah. How's it been camping?
Good.
You enjoy the camping?
Very nice.
Do you enjoy this park or the last park more?
Last park more.
Why is that?
More place to play, not so crowded. Better
Yeah.
for birding, better for mammaling.
Yeah. So this place seems to be a lot more popular with Thai people, eh?
Very.
I wonder why that is.
Because there's a type of flower called something puka.
Champu puka. The
Whatever it's called.
pink puka. So I guess you think they come and see that?
Yeah, when it's the season, I bet there's so many people coming here.
Yeah, but there's a lot, eh? Is it nice to get away and do some camping?
Very nice.
What's it like being out in nature?
Very calming.
Calming. Okay, it's a little bit more relaxing than your normal school days.
Yes.
No, come on, Felix, time to get ready for school.
It's a bit annoying.
But I guess you've still got me trying to wake you up early in the morning to go birding, yeah?
I guess so.
Do you prefer waking up early for birding or waking up early for school?
Birding.
Cool. So how old are you now?
8.
8. Turning 9 next month, yeah?
Yeah, next month.
How long have you been birding?
I don't remember. You can answer that.
It's been a few years now. But I think this year is the year that you've got most into it, eh?
Yep.
I would always sort of try and show birds to Felix. And he'd look at them and he'd try and use the binoculars. But this year he's really quite got into it. And we've been working hard on your life list, yeah?
Very hard.
You remember how many birds you've seen now?
About 500 and something.
500 and something, yeah. We passed 500 a while ago. Cool. What other countries have you birded in?
Sri Lanka, Myanmar.
Sri Lanka, Myanmar. We were planning to go to India this year, but then COVID hit. We had to postpone our trip. How about on this trip? What have been some of your best birds that you've seen?
Like one of my dad's lifers.
Which was at the Rufus Road Fulvera.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool, eh? Did you see any owls?
One.
What can you remember the name of it?
Collared Scopsow.
Collared Scopsow, yeah. So we woke up. Was it early or late? It was in the evening, yeah?
Yeah, it was amazing.
And how did we get to see that?
By playing the call and listening and looking down.
So we heard it first, yeah? And then we walked towards it. Did we see it straight away?
Yes.
I actually thought it was a little bit higher up. I was looking up in the trees. And then I shone my light down low, and then it was sitting on a low branch. Did you get a good view?
Very good.
Did it mind the red light?
No.
That was fine. I've got a flashlight that has a red light and a white light.
And a blue.
And a blue light, yeah. But when I had the red light on it, it just sat there and it was hooting. And then I put the white light on, and then it flew away, yeah? So the red light seems to disturb it a little bit less. Cool. Are there any birds that you would like to see that you haven't seen yet?
Beautiful nuthatch.
Beautiful nuthatch. That's one of the birds in this park, but I think it's very difficult to see, eh? How about in other places? Do you have any nemesises? Birds that you really want to see that you haven't seen yet? What's one of your biggest nemesises?
Biggest nemesis. I have no idea.
How about barn owl?
Probably up there.
We've tried a few times to see that, eh? And how about type of cuckoo?
Huh?
Cuckoo?
Yeah, lesser.
Lesser cuckoo is another one that we've looked for that we haven't seen. But there's been quite a few nemesises that we managed to find, eh?
Like what?
Like the yellow-cheeked tit that we saw a while ago.
I was wanting to see that for like a while.
Yeah, a while, and then we finally found it. So, have you noticed when you try a long time to see something and can't find it, and then when you finally see it, does it feel good?
Not too.
Not too good. You were quite excited when you saw that, I think. How do you feel when you see a new bird?
Happy?
You feel happy?
Excited?
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Are there any other countries that you'd like to go birding in?
Probably Madagascar.
Oh, look. What's happened? What's just happened?
A butterfly landed on my knee.
This is beautiful. Brown butterfly. Can you describe it, Felix?
It's brown. I can't really move my knee.
But has it got any patterns on it? Got some stripes, eh? And what colour is its back?
Greenish rainbow.
Like a rainbow colour, yeah. Green back. And all these little stripes on it. Let me see if I can take a picture of this. Just can you hold? Oh, no, it's gone. That was quite cool, though, eh? Do you like other wildlife other than birds, or only birds?
I like mammals and butterflies and
Mammals. What are some
insects.
cool mammals that you've seen? What? Oh, what's that?
Caterpillar on my binoculars.
Yeah. What color is it?
Now, please, can you get off? May you get off? Please, may you get off?
What's the caterpillar going to turn into?
Butterfly or moth? I have no
Butterfly
idea.
or moth, yeah. Look at that. What color is that? That's beautiful.
Yellow and black.
Got little stripes down it. Is that quite cool? He's just very gently getting a little pine needle and just teasing it off his binoculars. You're quite gentle with animals, eh?
Here you go, your proper home.
You're going to drop it on there, put it on the plant there. That's very cool.
Away.
Are there some animals that you don't like?
Like what?
Like leeches?
That's okay.
Can you say what happened the other night?
I was on the bed
Uh-huh.
and I really think there was like a leech outside which climbed onto me after a shower.
Uh-huh. Did you feel it crawling on you?
And then I actually noticed it.
Did you feel it crawling on your foot?
I felt it.
I remember you saying, Dad, there's something on my foot. Did you know it was a leech?
No. What was an ant?
Did it suck your blood?
Little.
Were you freaked out or was it fine?
It was just like a teeny dot.
Just a little dot, eh? Some people get really freaked out by leeches, eh? But you kind of, do you think you're used to them now?
No.
No? You like them?
No.
How about mosquitoes? There's been quite a few mosquitoes.
I hate them.
You hate them. But are you used to them?
No.
What do I do when I have mosquitoes?
Knock them off your hat.
You just, you get your hat and just flick them away. Okay, thanks for chatting, Felix. Anything else you want to say?
No.
Felix was a bit shy about doing this interview, but thanks for answering my questions, Felix. Okay, that's all, folks. Will you say goodbye?
Bye.
Okay, bye.